And obviously family came in to visit me and things like that, and I was just miserable. And then obviously I hadn't been eating or drinking or anything like that either. And I think it got to the point where I think Christine or somebody must have brought me an ice lolly to have, and I took some of the ice lolly and it was great. It was just so refreshing to have a bit of an ice lolly. But then quite soon after that I started vomiting, and it was blood that I was vomiting, which was pretty scary.
Can you remember all this?
I can remember this bit, and after this bit, this is when it starts to get hazy. So I started vomiting blood, and they sent me for a scan. I went for another CT scan.
Did the nurse not come running in to help and slipped or something like that?
I think that's later. Later
okay.
On. But I think at that point what happened is they sent me for another CT because they were worried about active bleeding, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I think the CT didn't show any active bleed, so they were kind of a wee bit at a miss as to why I was vomiting blood at that point. But anyway, the consultant had been called and he had come round and he's like, it's fine, and he was going home for the evening. And then obviously later that night, that was when it really took the turn for the worse, and I was literally, I just vomiting continuously, and it was just blood all the time. And at that point, they invoked the whatever it is, a major hemorrhage protocol, but there was people coming from all directions to see to me, and I remember just being absolutely terrified because I thought, I'm dying here. This is not great.
Mm-hmm.
So the consultant got called back in. He was going out for a meal with his wife apparently, and he came back in. And by that point, there was people tending to me, and I get rushed down to the theatre. And I can remember in the theatre, I was literally begging them to put me to sleep because I was so distressed.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember saying to the nurse, just tell my family I love them. That was the last thing I kind of said to the nurse, and then I remember that they knocked me out. And after that, I don't really remember an awful...
At that point, you're thinking, well, I'm saying goodbye.
I didn't know if I was going to wake up again, to be honest with you. And so at that point, obviously they operated on me. And I remember, the next thing I remember was being in the intensive care unit and waking up. And this is a bit where it starts to get hazy for me because I don't really remember an awful lot about it. But I remember waking up the intensive care unit, and over the course of a few days to a week, I was actually making a bit of an improvement and starting to get better, to the point where the intensive care consultant came and spoke to me and said, "It looks like you're going to be good to get discharged downstream into a ward, into a regular ward." So that was great. I was feeling good, and saying that mentally that was a positive thing for me. I was really happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this is hazy, but whatever happened at that point, I took, I kind of fell off a cliff at that point, because I always remember going back and seeing that ITU consultant going, I was ready to discharge you that day to a ward. And so again, I had another hemorrhage, major bleed situation, but it was a lot worse than the first one. And again, I was rushed to theatre, and I think during that whole process, this is a bit that's very hazy, but over a period of 5 days or 6 days, I think I had 6 or 7 emergency operations. And at one point, I lost 95 units of blood, which is 15 times the volume of the blood in your body.
Which means, how much blood do you have? Is it like 9 litres or something?
So the consultant told me it was 15 times the volume.
Wow.
They ran out of blood for my blood group type in Scotland that night.